Look, have you looked at this?
I have not.
Oh, it's faded.
Yeah. I have not.
Yesterday.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. Yeah.
She called Jill. She will be here.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I mean, you know.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
You asked and I delivered. Here I am.
Thank you.
Look at y'all matching.
We, that's what happens when you stay up all night long
Oh,
playing it.
uniform. Man, y'all should have told me.
If she didn't show up, I would suspend her.
You were gonna suspend
What?
her.
Hey, they don't pay me. I wouldn't even listen.
That's-
I'm gonna go chill with this.
Okay. Please do.
Man, this is volunteer work.
So you worked this morning?
I'm at work. Well, not. I told him I need to come and help y'all out. So only thing is that is on service. It's not on here. It's not on here. So other than that, it's fine.
There's one concern also.
Then I-
Judy's, our rules actually have it in office there. What we have is a job description. It's our job description says that it has to be yes and no. This is the state. The state says you have to have these things.
Yeah, I told you added those.
Right, so
But if that's what they said, it is what it is.
it is, but I need to go ahead and share this with our attorney just to make sure that passing this one has a money. It's not hard. And we try to have it.
Right.
So I want to talk to you today about that. But, yes, so we.
So yes, that's the only thing I see number 13 that we had, so
Absolutely.
they don't get it twisted.
There you go.
And other than that, you know, I saw these and I figured there was a update because whether this is gonna get, even if you know, with the job description and the law of the state moves on, we gotta go.
Exactly. Right. So I'll get clarification from our attorney and then I'll let you know.
Okay, all right, and then, since I didn't get mine.
Who doing it? You were doing it.
No, right on. Somebody's on this.
Okay, like I said, if you're doing it, it's wrong.
I just
You gotta correct it. Okay.
There are two.
Oh, I have it. I wasn't retired. We just got back to it.
Where he came up, he said, yeah, but we got to.
Yes.
keep going.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
She told me,
Hey, it ain't like I'm over your kid, did it? Put a-
no, I would have gotten it, but I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. I said I would try, so this one is big.
Close we are.
I know.
Excuse me.
There he is.
Okay.
Sir, how are you? There it is.
Right.
So I'll get, I'll check on this.
Thank you.
You all right?
Harold?
That's boy. You should start on time. You got 1 minute. Just wait.
Thank you.
When you go home.
Yeah, that was right about that. I see it.
I think it will plus September. Secretary and
I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
said it wasn't right.
yeah.
That's not about.
Oh, good morning. That's what he said. Sorry. Good morning to you.
Are we ready?
This is Mississippi.
I didn't know that.
I haven't said that since COVID. This is where I used to sit.
Yeah. An hour.
Like the scope of it, and I like the scope of it. I like the scope of it. Only being that word. Can we proceed?
We ready?
No. Can we proceed? We can, I mean, even though we're not black. Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome to this second fiscal year 2025 public budget hearing. We have a printed agenda. Next item will be the invocation done by Mr. Dawson, followed by the pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. Gracious God, our Father, we come thanking you for this day, for this opportunity to continue to serve the students and the parents of this community, Bessemer City School District. I'm asking you, Father God, that you would direct our hearts and our minds so that we may have clarity to move forward to do the business of this district. In your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson.
Yes, sir.
Roll call, Ms. Williams.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Mr. Morris is absent. Mrs. Thompson?
Present.
Ms. Garner is absent. Mr. Jones?
Present.
Mrs. Scott? Here. Mr. Dawson?
Present.
Mr. Williams is absent. Mr. Chairman, you do have a quorum. There are 4 members present.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Next item, item 4, presentation of proposed FY 2025 budget. Mrs. Tanya Donovan.
Good morning to all. Good morning. We would like to thank you for attending the second budget hearing for FY 25. As stated, today is the second hearing to begin at 11 o'clock. Just a brief synopsis of the budget process. The budget process begins early in the year with the schools and the department staff meeting with the finance staff, going over their projections. It pertains to employees, we're still hiring throughout the summer, but we still budget according to the units allotted. The budget provides an overview or plan for the use of our financial resources that will best fit the needs of the current student body. The budget is determined by strategically estimating the projected revenues and expenditures. Yes, there are several variables that could impact the budget, and such changes could be enrollment, construction, major repairs or renovations, or swings in legislative funding. Today's presentation is an estimate of income and expenses based on the information that we have available as of August 27th, which was yesterday. So we'll go ahead and jump into the presentation.
Can you advance to Ms. Williams?
You rolling? Are you rolling? Are you rolling?
Okay, they'll do it.
I'm over here. I'm over here. Gotta get one more.
The purpose of today's meeting is to ensure that we're being held accountable as well as making the public aware. Next slide. We have met the requirements according to section 16-13-140 Code of Alabama. The meeting has been publicized at the board, via print media, and the board's website. We are holding today's second board session, here in the boardroom. Next slide. The proposed annual budget, revenues and expenditures, as stated. The proposed annual budget of revenues and expenditures, which are Exhibit P1, presents the total budget for the LEA, which provides a detailed listing of all revenues available to the LEA and anticipated expenditures summarized by major function. An attachment to the budget provides additional data such as total foundation program allocations, projected enrollment, and projected employees. B, proposed budget of expenditures by school or cost center, which is Exhibit P2, presents the anticipated expenditures by major function and category of expense for each school. Other cost center budgets represent expenditures or activities serving more than one school. An attachment to the budget provides additional information such as the portion of the foundation program allocation calculated, the projected enrollment, and projected employees for each school site. The local school funds budgets are also included. Any additional information that is unique to a particular school and is pertinent to the budget is also provided. Bessemer's mission statement. The mission of Bessemer City Schools is to provide a safe and nurturing environment that meets the needs of the whole child through quality instruction, programs, and resources. By doing that, we want to make sure that we met all the state mandates and budget constraints. The state minimum salary matrix, the fringe benefits that are required by the state of Alabama, such as our insurance allocation per employee, which is $9,600. The retirement rate, which has increased this year for FY25, for Tier 1 employees is 13.57, Tier 2 is 12.6%. The required leave forms, which are the leave allocated days, which are your 2 personal days. The instructional support funds, such as materials and supplies, which are $900 per unit. Technology, $500 per unit. Library enhancement, $157.72 per unit. Professional development, $100 per unit. Textbooks, $100 per member. and common purchase, which was brought back this year for FY twenty-five, is $100 per unit. Our foundation local match this year is $4,849,830, with the capital local fund match of $211,594. We're meeting our career tech expenditure requirements, and CMP has their required 1 month reserve. Now we'll go through our trends. Our average daily membership, which right here we have a 5-year look. Starting at 2021, our enrollment was 3,479.10 students. In 22, it was 3,229.10 again in 22. In 23, we were at 3,290.75. In 24, 3,082.05. And for this year, 2,957.65. As you can tell, starting in 22, there was a decrease between 21 and 22 of 250 students. Between 23 and 22, there was an increase of 61.65 students. In 2024, there was a decrease between 23 and 24 of 208.7 students. And in 2025 versus 24, there is still a decrease, of 124.4 students. That is as a district. So let's break it down by school. Next slide. Starting, this is a 4-year look. With the board, you will see, of course, there are no average daily members actually allocated, but we started at the schools. Abrams Elementary in 22, they were at 229.75, 23, 211.15, 24, 220.8, and in 25, 197.6. The middle school in 22, 771.45, 23, 775.20, in 24, 664.10, and in 25, 637.4. Greenwood Elementary in 22, 255.95, in 23, 284 even, 24, 270.05, and in 25, 272.55. Charles F. Hard, 22, there were 324.65. In 23, it was 334.90. In 24, it was 308.25. And this year, the estimate is at 311 even. Bessemer City High in 22, there were 825.05. 23, 847.65. In 24, 840.35. And in 25, 790.65. Jonesboro, 519.80 in 2022. In 23, there were 542.45. 24, 484.35. And in 25, 472. West Hills in 2022, there were 302.45. In 23, 295.40. In 24, 294.15. And this year, budget 276.45. The next few slides, we will actually break down the trends and help you to understand where the differences are. The state allocated foundation for FY '25 is as such. In comparison to 24 to 25, there was a decrease of 124.40 students. Because of that, that does affect our actual employee count as it pertains to foundation allocated dollars. In 25, we are being allocated 173.12 teachers. As in 2024, we were allocated 180.24, which is a difference of 7.12. Principals, we will remain balanced. We will have 7 assistant principals. This year, we are allocated 3.5, whereas last year we were only allocated 2.5. And thanks to our legislative, senators and representatives and the new, bill that was placed, with the increase of ADM, you will be able to earn half a whole of an assistant principal. Counselors will remain the same. Librarians will remain the same at 6.5. Our career tech director this year is being funded fully. So you will see in FY '25 we have 1, whereas in '24 it was 0.75, and there's an increase of 0.25. And our career tech counselor, this year's our first year having a career tech counselor fully funded. So we have 1, whereas last year we had none. That brings us to a total for FY '25, 198.12 being funded for FY '25 in our foundation, whereas in 2024, we were funded 202.99, which gives us a difference of 4.87. Drilling down a little bit further, Abrams, on the next slide, thank you, Ms. Williams, our average daily membership, comparing 25 to 24, you will see 197.60 for FY '25. In 2024, there were 220.8, which gave us a variance of 23.20. We lost 1.13 of a teacher, as well as a half of a counselor. Bessemer City Middle, in 2025, we were estimated at 637.4, whereas last year it was 664.10. You will see the variance is 26.7, which is a decrease. We also lost a teacher, which is at 1.39. We also lost an assistant principal, as well as half of a counselor. Greenwood Elementary, for FY '25, 272.55. In 2024, it was 270.05. That's an increase of 2.5, which led to an increase of a 0.05 of a teacher, but we still lost half of a counselor. Charles L. Hard, 2025, 311 is our average daily membership there, whereas last year we were at 308.25. That's still an increase of 2.75. We gained 0.23 of a teacher. We also gained that half of a principal, but we lost half of a counselor. Bessemer City High, FY '25, 790.65. Last year, in 2024, 840.35. You see the variance is a decrease of 49.70, which also meant loss of teacher units at 2.76, but we still gained our 2 counselors there. In Jonesboro, FY '25, 472 is our average daily membership. 2024, we were at 484.35, which is a decrease of 12.35. We lost 0.80 of a teacher. We gained half of a principal, but we also lost half of a counselor. West Hills Elementary, FY '25, 276.45 is our membership there, whereas in '24, we were at 294.15. You see the variance is also a loss of 17.7. We lost a teacher unit, 1.32. We did not gain an assistant principal, but we still lost half of the counselor, which brings our total back to what the State Department has us at our daily membership in FY '25, 2,957.65, in comparison to last year, 3,082.05, which shows the difference of 124.40. The difference for the teacher units are 7.12. We have a 0 level on assistant principal, and we have a -1 for counselor, and that's because we had 2 gain at the high school. Our projected employee budget district-wide for state, 173.12 for teachers, 6.5 for librarians, 7 for counselors, 11.5 for administrators, which brings us to a total of 198.12. Other state, 1 counselor, 1 administrator, and 5.25 support certified employees, and 40 non-certified support employees. That brings us to a total of 47.25. Federal funds, we have half of a librarian there, 3 counselors, 6.5 administrators, 5.75 certified support, and 80.80 non-certified support, which brings us to a total of 96.55. And locally funded teachers, we have 3.88. Counselors, 2. Administrators, 11. Certified support, 12. Non-certified support, 75.20, which brings us to a total of 104.08. Going across, we will have a total employee count of 446. Going down, we will have a total employee count of 446. Revenue projection. This year for FY25, broken down by source. State funds, we are anticipating $23,220,958.67. Federal funds, $8,407,996. Local, $16,154,919.71. And other revenue, $72,442, which brings us to a total of $47,856,316.38. Next slide, our state allocated funds by foundation program are broken out. The difference between FY25 and 24 in salaries, there is an increase of $223,093. As you know, there was a 2% increase, I apologize, of salaries this year. Fringe benefits, the difference between 24 and 25, there's an increase of $123,463 there. Our OCE, or other current expenses, there's a difference of $314,920, which is an increase from 24. Our classroom instructional funds, our student materials, there is an increase of $62,777. Our technology funds, there is a decrease of $2,435. Our library enhancement shows a decrease of $769. Our professional development shows an decrease of $487. Our textbook funds are increasing by $64,611. And as stated before, common purchase we haven't had in a few years. So this year in FY25, we have $19,812 there. The foundation program, calculating all of FY25, $22,950,504 are what we're, or what the state says that we're anticipating to be paying out this year. But of that, state funds, we will receive $18,100,674, and we will match that with 10 mil match, $4,849,830. If you go across, you see that there is a decrease in our 10 mil match of $19,220, and there's an increase in state funds by $824,205. Next slide. Other programs that are also funded through the state of Alabama are our transportation operations. You will see here that there's an increase of $15,890 there. Our ARI, or our Alabama Reading Initiative funds, we're going to remain level, so there's no increase or decrease there. Our at-risk funds, there's an increase of $7,525 there. The technology coordinator, There's an increase of $1,367 between 24 and 25. Our nursing program, $89,382 increase there as well. As of yesterday, we are still not aware of our English language funds available, so there's no change. We still have the $141,381 there from FY '24. Our career tech O&M, there is a decrease of $9,842 there. Our OSR program shows an increase of $115,804 between the 2 years. And our national board certified teachers, we're remaining level there at $72,000. Also included in our budgeted revenue are our federal funds. Title I, Part A, as of right now, we have $3,201,469 between FY '24 and '25. There is an increase of $326,619.44. As of yesterday, our Title I school improvement, we did not have those funds available. Title II, FY '25, we're projected to have $275,770. The difference between 24 and 25, we're showing $160,295.12. We're not exactly sure if anything will be carried over for the next year. Title III, we did not have that number, but we're still showing the FY '24 at $58,043.44. Title IV, they are working on writing that grant. We still have $221,059.76 showing from FY '24. Our Carl Perkins funds, we have a decrease of $13,800 between the 2 years of '25 and '24. Our Part B, IDEA, which is part of our special education program, we have a decrease of $239,743.28. As you can tell, in FY '24, we had $1,225,751.28. As of FY '25, our projected budget is at $986,008. We're not exactly sure how much of that will possibly carry over for FY '25. Part B, FY '25, we have $17,870, whereas in '24, we budgeted $36,382, which is a difference of $18,512. Homeless grant, we have not written in a few years due to we had ESSER funds available to us. As soon as we're able to write for that grant, it will be, and remember, it is competitive, so they are going to be writing for that grant as well this year. That brings us to a total of, in FY '25, of $4,572,827, whereas in '24, we were at $6,397,341.88, which is a difference of $1,824,514.88. The next slide is just the chart, something to help you kind of see where a lot of our funds are actually coming from. And if you follow the legend, the red dot, which covers basically the whole chart or graph, is our 10-meal match. You'll also see kind of in between with the different colors, you have your 1-cent sales tax, helping school tax, manufactured homes, fines, penalties, rentals, interest for general fund as well as reserve funds, and any miscellaneous revenue. Our local revenue, 10-meal match, we're projecting $14,418,324. Our 1-cent sales tax, $648,558. Our county business privilege tax of $88,000. Our helping tax, $12,854.37. Manufactured homes, $333. Fines and penalties, $1,400. Rentals, $24,000. Combined interest for general and reserve funds, $102,000, and miscellaneous revenue funds, $100,000. Other revenue, our disability determination, $700 even. Air Force ROTC, $72,442. Medicaid reimbursement, $393,895. Indirect costs, $350,000. And extracurricular trips, $24,745. Next slide. Also included in our budget is CNP. So this time, we want to also mention, as before, our CNP department. We have a new CNP director, Ms. Sharon Sanders, our bookkeeper, Margaret Newt, secretary, Jensen Thomas. At this time, we have 6 managers, 2 assistant managers, and 20 workers. Some may know, but some may not know. We want to make sure we also explain the various programs that were in the CNP department that they're actually receiving revenue for. The National Food Program, the Summer Feed Program, and you have the acronym now, SFPS, as well as our at-risk program, which is our after-school meals. For FY25, they are projecting revenue for lunch at $2,499,467. Breakfast, $815,162. Commodities, $176,271. A la carte, $66,878. Other revenues, $72,442. Transfer funds, $1,039,652. And that brings us to a total of $4,669,872.
All right.
Yes, ma'am. You can go to the expenditures. Go, if you want up. Yes, ma'am, keep on up. Up. Keep going up, yes, ma'am. Knock down, up. Okay. You almost, there you go. Okay. All right, expenditures. Now you. Thank you. All right, our proposed expenses for this year, our instructional services, $18,252,702.69. Our instructional support services, $8,516,321.65. Our operation and maintenance, $4,129,434. Our general admin expenses, $2,865,674.67. Capital outlay, $3,093,894. Debt service, $1,964,818.78. And our other expenses, $1,710,077.89, which brings us to a total of $46,969,389.12. Next slide. Of this number that you just heard me go over, are included, or including our salaries and benefits, $554,987. Our utilities, $1,721,000. Building services, $925,000. Insurance is $460,000. Professional development dues and fees, which includes the board members, we're estimating that at $295,000. And supplements, which are covered as well, $138,000, which brings us to a total of $41,093,987. As mentioned before, the Title I dollars that are included in the revenue, we want to also let you know of that $3,201,469. That will be covering professional development, that's throughout the district, salaries and benefits for those employees in the federal programs department, technology purchases, tutoring for our students, parent engagement, which is being headed by Kimberly Gaston, also the indirect costs, homeless, as well as being, led or headed by Kimberly Gaston. Transportation for foster care, as well as the summer programs. Child nutrition. And we will be comparing 24 to 25. In 25, they're estimating $1,493,576 for salaries and benefits, whereas in FY 24, there's a budget of $1,615,293. Supplies in FY 25, $21,286. In 24, $240,864. Purchase services, $161,928 in FY 25, whereas in 24, they estimated $68,861. Capitalized equipment in 25, they're budgeting for $181,090, whereas in 24, they estimated or budgeted, for $1,460,092. Indirect costs, FY 25, $302,936, and in 24, $394,893. Food and U.S. commodities, FY 25, they're budgeting $1,967,249, whereas in 2024, it was $2,652,691. Professional development for FY 25, $63,041. In 24, they were at $26,382. In FY 25, they're budgeting or estimating expenses to be at $4,191,106, whereas in 2024, it was $6,459,076, which is a difference of $2,267,970. Our special education program, as mentioned previously, as far as our revenues or projected revenue for the IDEA Part B, $986,008 of those funds that will be covering materials and supplies, employee salaries and benefits, contracted services, as well as professional development. In our IDEA Part B for preschool with disability, $17,870 is being expected as pertains to revenue, but their expenses will cover materials and supplies, contracted services, and their professional development. Transportation. Transportation is being led by Santonia Davidson, and that's the new director in that department. We're slotted for 33 bus drivers, 10 special ed bus aides, 2 mechanics, 1 head mechanic, and 1 assistant, secretary, Mr. Jeremy Beck, and the supervisor, Dr. Santonia Davidson. Our transportation operations are at $1,650,049, and our fleet renewal is $250,173. Capital improvements and repairs. Debt payment. The U.S. bank payment, which is for the renovations at Hard, $911,387.51. Our regions, the fleet renewal for 2018, which is due to be paid off in 2028, is $117,438.79. And our new fleet debt payment, which is due to be paid off in 2034, is at $209,746.56. All of our buses are new and air conditioned. Our PSCA funds, our Series 2015B, $335,833.92. Our Series 2017, $199,638.07. And our 2019, $189,806.95. Other capital projects that are actually being done as we speak. We have the central office window replacement, which is due to be budgeted at $377,650. Abrams roof replacement, $896,787.92. Jonesboro and Greenwood roof replacement, $804,974.64. Abrams Elementary renovation, $803,212.08. And Central Office roof replacement, $412,535, which brings us to a total of $3,295,159.64. Our advancement in technology projects, which will be overseen by Davis Architect. Roof replacement, they will be covering roof projects at Abrams Elementary and the cafeteria main building, West Hills, the entire school, HVAC and Hart Elementary, and demolition at New Horizon. As well as other advancement in technology funds will be covering other building improvements as well as our digital boards. As you can see, $3,093,894 will be covered by the Advancement Plus funds, and $933,843.53 will be covered by the other advancement technology funds. Just a little bit about what's going on here in Bessemer, and what we're actually doing with other funds that we've received. As mentioned before, next slide. We still have funds left over from our UAB COVID grant, and as you can see, those funds are still going to be covering the medical supplies, nursing professional development, salaries, and sign-on bonuses for full-time nurses. Our technology and security department, which is being led by Dr. Florence Williams, she's looking to use those funds to purchase additional software such as Adobe Pro, DocuSign, update or upgrade the Microsoft Office and Word for Windows and Mac computers. She's wanting to refresh her help desk system with the Atera remote. She's looking to add the Active Directory to PowerSchool, which is level data to create and manage student emails. And she's looking to refresh the security cameras throughout the district. With that, she has the Lieutenant Governor funds, and that's the $578,000 that you see mentioned there. And our proposed budget for FY25, we're looking to end with $25,009,880.23. Of course, we welcome all concerns, questions, and comments. There was a form outside the door. If we cannot answer a question today, or if there's a question that you just want to slip to us, you can fill out that form, and if you allow us at least 2 days to get back to you. If you can leave us a good email or phone number, we can call you. And we want to thank you for attending today's presentation. If you would, if you have any questions or comments as mentioned, and you just don't want to fill out the form, you can send that to pstewart@bestk12.org, or you can send it to finance@bestk12.org. We'd like to thank the finance department for all the work that you've done, as well as the board for taking the time and the patience to come to the various board meetings to help us with this.
Thank you, Ms. Donald. Are there any questions?
Are you talking to the audience? Yes,
Lord Board member.
I mean, it's for everyone, I thought. You asked for everyone.
Do the audience have any questions?
I would like to ask one. Emory Kidd with Alabama Education Association. I did receive a copy of the proposed salary schedule on yesterday. I would just like to know if this salary schedule was a result of the Moon Farm investigation, or is this recently created? If so, at what point will we be meeting with the Alabama Education Association to review that salary schedule?
This salary schedule is just a 2% increase that was a state mandate. And also, if we notice from 0 to 8, the state actually made adjustments in the teacher salary schedule. So those items were done, as well as the 2% increase, I think it was on teams. Those are the only things done to the salary schedule.
We do see some discrepancies through the document that was submitted yesterday. So my second question is, at what point will the district be ready to review proposed salary schedule?
Isn't that a board
Next week.
That's a board question then.
Erica Hughes,
Yeah.
President, Central Alabama AFD. That was the same question I asked last time, and I haven't received a meeting as well. So I've been asking for that since 22, so.
And, Mr. President?
Yes, you wanna,
Well, yeah, I just wanted to ask one question, and following up to that, I was just wanted to ask a question because when I saw the attachment with the salary schedule attached in the package, I wanted to be sure, is this the one that you all are asking us to vote on? Because after the discussions on yesterday, we talked about getting together and making changes to the salary schedule. And I don't want it to be confused. I think that question was raised yesterday at our retreat as well. So even though I know this is in the package with what was just presented, however, when we vote, I want to be sure that we vote on the actual and final corrected salary schedule. Can someone speak on that for me, please?
So yes, we will make sure that we bring one. In our discussion on yesterday, we talked about bringing one forward. We also talked about making sure that we presented a salary schedule that is free of any errors. And so we discussed that we may possibly submit one, or we could be reaching out to the state to see if we can have some extended time to ensure that it is an accurate schedule.
So with the, thank you, and you're correct, that's what we did talk about. I just want to be sure, we're going to vote on the salary schedule as is to submit to the state, or we're going to hold it out. I raised that question because that was the question the last time. So we know what we are voting on. Is it going to be part of the budget that we submit to the state by October the 1st, the particular one that's enclosed? If not, are we holding that out until we make the changes as being that one?
That's our plan. And so.
To do which one?
Which one?
I had two questions.
That we present, that we hold out and present the correct salary schedule to the state board.
So in voting on the budget, when we get ready to vote on it, it would be minus the salary schedule.
No, we will make sure that we bring the accurate salary schedule to you to vote on, and then submit that to the state.
So, okay, so we would not vote on it until we have that, so, okay, just wanted to clarify.
I'm not clear. So we are not supposed to be voting on the salary schedule until the salary schedule is corrected. We are going to have to ask the state for an extension of time. We're going to ask the state for an extension of time to make sure that we have sufficient time to make the corrections in the salary schedule. I guess I start there. Is that a yes or no?
If there are corrections that need to be made, yes.
Okay, so are you trying to say that you're going to present it to us in enough time to vote on it corrected before October 1? Or as we discussed yesterday, are we asking for extended time to work on this? Which way are we going? Because I'm not clear now, I really am not.
If we can present a corrected copy to the board to vote on, without an extension, that is going to be the goal.
I have one more, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Ms.
Again, Erica Hughes, President, Central Alabama AFT. It's been brought to my attention that many of the things, actually 4 of the things that the board voted down at the last board meeting was overturned by Dr. Boyd. So my question is, at any point, is Dr. Boyd going to go ahead and approve the salary schedule without board approval? And I know yesterday at the meeting, it was discussed that there no longer has to be a quorum, and Dr. Mackey will make the final decision if there's not a quorum made with a majority vote. So at some point, will the state go ahead and approve the salary schedule and leave the board out of it?
That's a question I know I can answer.
That's what Dr. Boyd
yes,
said.
sir, Dr. Boyd.
Ms. Hughes, we would certainly hope that we can work together with the board, get it approved. But in the case that is not the case, then of course it will get approved through other means, through me and through Dr. Mackey.
So sorry.
I have one question, Dr. Ariola, Board, Dr. Ford. So will there be an additional meeting, and I know we're talking AFT, I'm Vice President AFT, for on behalf of employees, will we have an opportunity to bring our concerns with the discrepancies that we see in the salary schedule prior to going to the board for vote? Are we gonna have that opportunity to do that?
Absolutely, you will.
One last question. When will the presentation by Lean Frog happen? Because personally, I feel like we can't make the most educated or have the most educated discussion about the salary schedule until we see what the presentation does entail. So will that happen prior to our meeting confirmed, or is there a timeline at all?
That would happen prior to.
Prior to?
Yes.
Will there be a special call board meeting, or?
I can't answer that at this time, but I will definitely make sure that I let you know.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, and just for clarification, I do not, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but the Lean Fraud presentation and what we reached out to Lean Fraud to do on behalf of the board was done, has been done, it was presented yesterday to the board, right? So any meetings that will be held with our union partners will be a meeting that will take place between the board and the district, and invite you guys to, but Lean Fraud would not necessarily be a part of that.
Okay, the only reason I ask is because the board did use public funds to do an investigation on these salaries. And right now, from what you just described, it doesn't seem as if the employees of the district actually gained the information that was received.
But what Mr. Chair, it wasn't an investigation that we asked them to do. We asked them to do a market study for us. So that wasn't an investigation that we commissioned Lean Fraud to do, just to be clear. It wasn't an investigation.
Well, since that's public information, how could we access that information?
Well, any information that's from that will be shared with you guys in the meeting that will be scheduled with you. It's forthcoming.
Okay. Awesome.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
while we're talking about the salary schedule, I would just like to ask if you all would look at the supplement. They haven't been increased in more than 10 years, and everything is very expensive, and I've been asking this for over a year now. So I would ask that you all look at the whole package. Mr. Chair.
In other words, this salary information you all gave us today, I mean, it really has no validity, at all. Based on, what I've heard, we don't have information from the study, and it was my understanding when we started this whole process, it wasn't for just a market analysis. The main reason that we got Lean Fraud involved was to solve the salary schedule question and make corrections in the salary schedule such that at this point we would not be sitting here today talking about the need for the salary schedule. Now, how it got off that lane, got out of that lane, and to doing the market analysis, I don't know. But I know that we had them to come in because we had these salary schedule issues and we wanted them to have to be resolved. So now, then the information that's sent yesterday really was just sent. I mean, it has no value whatsoever. Because all the schedule is wrong. So just an increase of the $2,000 is not going to make the corrections that need to be made within the matrix itself. So, I mean, that's how I feel. I also would like to say I feel that, the public should be, the public is entitled to and should have the information, even if it requires us, to have another meeting as such. But they are entitled to, this information and to be clear about it.
Mr. Chair, recommendations were brought back to this board yesterday from Lean Fraud, recommendation or suggestions to be made. Of course, information can be shared with the public, but it's the board's responsibility and our to take that information and to make a decision what we're going to do with that information.
That's correct.
We, and anyone that we commission to do work on our behalf, we still have to make the decision at the end of the day in terms of what we do with it and act and take the appropriate action. So Lane Frog or anyone else can't take that for us. We have to do that.
I understand exactly what you're saying, but Lean Frog, we hired them really for one main reason, and that was to fix the salary schedules. Now, we do have some information from them, but that wasn't done. All the main information was given for the teacher salary schedules, of which we were not having any problems with because that matrix is determined by the state. So now, I agree, we need to take the information that was presented by Lane Fogg and fix the schedule. Since that, it wasn't done, it still needs to be done. And I go back to the square, the information that we currently have really isn't valuable information. And then I think that information should be shared with the public. So that's all I have to say about that.
Mr. Chairman,
Good one.
just so we can be clear, the board members and the audience, are we going to allow them to fix our salary schedule, or you are gonna get together and use the information provided to fix the salary schedule? And what time frame would that be? I think that's important to ask them if you go either way. What would be the time frame?
So first I want to make sure that, I want to clarify something. The information that was shared with us from Lean Frog, they did indicate that there were some recommendations and some suggestions, but they did not indicate that our salary schedule was incorrect. And they did show several slides and to show us where we fell in accordance with some of our neighboring districts or within this market. And so we'll go back and look to see if we need to maybe employ Lean Frog, but at this time we don't know. We're looking at the recommendations and we'll revisit the salary schedule. And we'll do that as soon as possible.
Right, and the reason I was asking because, you think about October 1st, and we started this journey a year ago, and I think that's where the frustration is coming from with the audience and the board members. It took a little longer than we realized, but we can't do anything about that now. But I guess moving forward, we just need to know, are we gonna work on it? Is Lean Frog gonna work on it, and how would that look? So I think it's important to keep them informed as well as us, because it'll be October 1st before you know it. And I think they fear that we're gonna end up submitting this salary schedule again, and we have another year. Or they fear that Dr. Boyd will submit it, but I do feel like he will work with us. He has told us that often, and I do believe that. So we do need to give him a chance.
And
Mr.
Mr. Chair,
I
I do want to address Mr. Dawson. I know yesterday Ms. Bonner asked a specific question when it relates to a degree jump in the salary schedule, and Lean Frog specifically said she did not look at that. So I do know some of the questions that have been concerns were not addressed with Lean Frog because she could not answer Ms. Bonner yesterday. So I know all of the salary schedule was not investigated because of the response from Lean Frog yesterday.
And Mr. Chair, and I want to kind of piggyback from Ms. Thompson's, question here and make this statement. At the very beginning, when Lean Frog was hired, it was supposed to be a cooperative effort between Lean Frog and the board. We were supposed to have been incorporated in that, in that process to discuss with them the issues and concerns that we have, and then bringing people to the table, too, that were knowledgeable about the concerns that were on the table, and that didn't happen. So I don't want to be cut out of the process. I want to know what's going on. I want to be able to express the direct concerns that we have, and then work on solving this problem once and for all in order to get these matrices together. So I just want to say, I'm not on the page of just turning it over to them. Really, particularly given some of the information that we received, from them, I don't know why we can't sit down at the table and just get it done. It's not as complicated as it's being made out to be. It's just really not that complicated. You got to have certain steps coming from top to bottom. You got to have a set increase going from left to right as one increases in degrees. And you have to make sure that there's consistency in that happening. It's not complicated, really it isn't.
Mr. John, let me just say for clarity, I just want to clarify a couple of things from yesterday. I won't call it inaccuracy, I know you said there were not any. I want to use the word discrepancy in the report in a couple of areas, whether it was high or low. That was mentioned on yesterday. Can everyone agree with me on that?
I do.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm speaking it correctly. So with that being in mind, it was also stated that we needed to look at those areas, which mean areas of concerns. So we need to look at that. They did not commit to doing that process, and if they are going to be involved, it was my understanding from them that we would have to initiate another contract for them to do that work. Am I correct or not? I just want to make sure as I talk that I'm speaking what actually happened. So if we are going to involve lien fraud to continue in this process, one, we need to be discussing, not at this meeting necessarily, but whether or not we're going to use their services. Also, was talk about another service company if possible, or the board doing it. So that's where we are right now. And so let's keep that in mind, because, and I say that because we also talked about the time frame, and I was very concerned about that. Excuse me, my voice is kind of going away. So as we move forward and try to meet the deadlines, I was just wanted to make it clear, going back to my previous question, as to the time frame, which salary schedule we were going to submit, so we won't fall in the same place where we were last year this time.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Let me say a few things here. We will submit one, but we want to make sure it's done in an accurate fashion. I feel we have plenty of time between now and October 1st to meet with our union representatives, to meet with our employees, to share the information with you all, and get the salary schedule into the State Department on time and have it approved by the board. In the event, and hopefully highly unlikely event, we're not able to get it on time, we'll ask for an extension. But I think it's very important to get input from our stakeholders and to make sure that it's accurate. So Lien Fraud did do a study, very interesting study, and it shows a lot of good information that we're going to be able to use and incorporate this. So we'll work together with our stakeholders and our central office personnel, our teachers and everyone, to make sure we have a good plan in place. And when I say everyone, we can't have a collective meeting with every single person there. We'll have a few people who represent different organizations and different schools. But rest assured, we're going to work on that and make sure that the salary schedule is accurate. It's long overdue to have an approved salary schedule by the board. It will be done this year.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. I think that's what everybody wanted to hear.
Mr. Jones, one last question. And what you just mentioned, Dr. Boyd, at what point, after you all get together, we'll come back before the board to review before we actually take the vote? I mean, to review and to ask questions before we actually vote?
Absolutely, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get enough input so there won't be any prolonged decision of going back and forth with this particular process. So that's why we want to make sure we get everyone's input on that, so we can get it right the first time and have a speedy approval and move forward with it.
Okay, I just want to make sure the board have some input in as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you very kindly.
And I just have one question, because I didn't get the information the last time. Where it is in the code that states that you write the questions down on the form to be sent in, where is that information located?
I'll go ahead and answer that question.
Where is it in the code where it states that the public writes? Can you all not hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'll answer that question for you.
Yeah, what section of the code is that information in, where they write the questions on the form and submit it in that manner?
So that's not actually in the code. What it is a letter was sent to CSFOs by the State Department of Education Finance Department that is written down on that particular form. If you need a copy of that letter, I can get it to you, Ms. Moore.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes, ma'am.
I have one last question. Dr. Boyd, Mr. Jones, Dr. Ariel, and all of you, all of us. So in order to keep transparency, can we ensure that we have an open meeting, not just some people that don't know anything about the salary schedule, and we really keep the transparency where we have stakeholders, both the unions, at the table with the board members? If you bring Lien Fraud back, that's fine too, to really go over the salary schedule. I'm only saying that because I was the person that stood up here for a whole hour and a half and went over the entire salary schedule and pointed out every discrepancy in the salary schedule. Just like we just said, putting the 2% on the mistakes is not correcting it. So I just want to ensure that we have total transparency, everybody at the table, and let's go through page for page, not just certain areas to serve the interests of certain individuals. It should be across the board. And I just want to make sure we have that opportunity.
We'll have that opportunity, but exactly what you want and having everyone there, a large number of people.
No, not a large.
Let me be clear on this. A lot of times we want, people may think that if you have a whole lot of people, you know, everybody gets a stake in and so forth. But typically when you have a whole large number of people, very little gets done. So we want to make sure that we have a good representation, but we want to make sure and also state before the meeting starts, not everybody's going to get what you want, but you have to be able to understand that you have to compromise. What we want to do is what's best for the children. We want to make sure that the employees are treated fairly and paid a decent salary, but we also have to look at there are a lot of other funding situations in our budget that we have to be aware of. So yes, we want to do that. And I must say the work that was done by Lean for All was really, really good. A market analysis was done. It was done comparing our salaries to other school districts surrounding us. I'll be happy to know that in many cases, we're paying more than surrounding districts. In some jobs, very few, we're under the 10% mark. So those are the things that we're going to target and try to fix.
I am so sorry. I have one last question.
Oh, yeah.
I apologize.
It's gonna be too.
I want to ask that at this meeting, we very plainly state the answer to some of the questions that have been raised, especially in her presentation, in Mrs. Morris's presentation, specifically when it comes to the range of salaries between the steps. Specifically, is it statutory law that it has to be a percentage range or a certain range? That I think is, I can hear, this is the second year in a row I'm getting the same questions, not actually just yes or no answers to. So when it comes to qualifications of certain job titles, we need to know yes or no, this is legitimate or not. And specifically when it comes to the ranges between those different degrees, is it law that it has to be a certain percentage, or is it up to the board's discretion on what they choose those ranges to be? Those particular two questions seem to keep coming up year after year.
Yes, Mr. Kidd, that's a really good question. And your answer, it depends. It depends. So the teacher's salary matrix is determined by our legislature. It's voted on. That is set by the state. We have no dictation whatsoever. Now, a school district can pay a little bit more, but they cannot pay underneath that salary matrix. For other jobs here in the district, principal, different levels there, that's a local decision set by each LEA or local educational agency, and it's determined by them. So, and that's why that Lean for All study was so important. It allowed us to do a comparative analysis to see where we are, where we're above, where we're below, and what we need to focus on. So this is going to be some real good information. But you said there are some questions. What would help us expedite the meeting? Because we're all about efficiency. Write the questions, send it to us ahead of time. There are some questions, we know quite a few things because we have a lot of experience in education, but there's a whole lot we don't know. Sometimes we have to consult with additional individuals from the State Department, or sometimes we have to consult with attorneys. If you have the questions ahead of us, it'll help us a whole lot to have an answer when you ask that question. So prior to the meeting, I ask any of you, if you have questions, Ms. Morris, and anyone in here, please forward it to Dr. Ariola, and we'll have answers for you ahead of time. It'll help us out a whole lot and help you out too. And hopefully won't keep the meeting so long.
Yes, Lord. And thank you for that one answer that you gave. Thank you very much.
Well,
Mr. Chair, one last request. When you're deciding who's going to be in attendance at this meeting, will you please make sure all classified and certified staff, support staff is represented in that meeting as well. Central Alabama AFT also represents support staff, and I will definitely make sure that they're covered, but they need to be present in the meeting as well.
so in order to do any type of study, it's important that you consider the whole population. The best way to do this, without having the whole population here, is to take a stratified sampling of all the employees in the district. So it include employees from different level, different positions, and so forth. So absolutely, we'll do that. And we had planned on doing that anyway. But thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
If they have finished.
that they have finished. Have you all? I have just a couple, since I'm just getting this information today. And I want to know, and just looking over this quickly, and let me make this notation. There are no page numbers. Okay. We need page numbers for reference. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I've said this before. I guess that's on this page here where it says anticipated revenue by source. We have state, federal, local, other listed. Total revenue then should be 47,856,316.38. That page. The pages that follow, are they supposed to tie to these numbers?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, where's the page then that would have summation numbers? Because I want to know where you're, because I look at this, I looked at some of these, the revenue numbers and tried to do some additions, like quickly because I don't see it. Then when I turn to your last page, where you had a proposed FY 2025 budget numbers, then they're not matching. So I don't, I'm trying to follow. Say for here on the proposed FY 2025 budget, you have instructional services 15,419,942.08.
That's in our general.
I'm sorry?
That's in our general.
Okay, so then the general expenditure numbers on these supplemental sheets, they should come back and match, and that's what I'm asking. So when I look at this a little bit further, or even look up here at the revenue. Total revenues you have in the general is 37 million for, why is it so little? 413,640.37. So then back here in your revenue section, what is this tied to?
General.
This, I see a general revenue, total revenues of 37,413,640, I think, .37.
Yes, sir. In our general.
In the general. Okay, so where are the supporting numbers then? Because you got like independent schedules here, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so, and then these are supposed to tie over in the end to whatever your total numbers are, right?
Not necessarily.
I really don't understand how this is working. If you provide totals, the totals got to come from some supporting data. But then the supporting data doesn't match up the totals. When you go across the different schedules and everything that you have, just briefly looking, they don't match. So I don't know how this is working.
Any other questions?
Mr. President, Ms. Warner, rest assured that if there's anything wrong with this, the Finance Department, the State Department will come back and have us correct it. But based on our last audits, there's been a pretty good track record regarding the budgeting and the process and the spending of this expenditure. So I feel pretty good about this particular document here, but rest assured if there's an issue, Bessemer City Schools will be informed and we'll make sure that it's corrected in the right way.
Well, Dr. Boyd, based on your theory of the fact that because there was an audit, because it's sent to the State Department, then should a CSFO be locked up, be picked up, and information is being sent to the State Department, every year, then the State Department then should have caught the mistakes and not get to the point where you have to lock up a CSFO.
Okay.
I just don't agree with that theory that it's going to get corrected there, but why doesn't it get corrected before it leaves here and go to there when you point it out? These supplemental schedules are supposed to support the totals. Where are you getting your totals from if they're not coming from the supplemental information, the independent information? Then where do the totals come from? There shouldn't be that kind of difference. You present schedules and you add them up, then they should support your totals. And you shouldn't have like 2 or 3 different totals. On every different thing that you have, you got a different value.
I'm going to respond quickly to that
Okay.
question there because a
Thank
lot
you.
of incendiary items were dropped in that conversation there.
Well, it was incendiary for you to say that just because it's sent to the State Department, that they're gonna make the corrections. That hasn't been happening. So you really shouldn't even start there. I asked a simple question. And in any scenario, the supplemental information should support the totals. But they vary. That's all I'm saying. That's simple.
Right. So the State Department checks over this information there, and if there is some wrongdoing, as was alluded to earlier about a CSFO getting in trouble, yes, that was caught by the State Department of Education. So there is a system of checks and balances to make sure that LEAs, our local educational agencies, are doing what they're supposed to do.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening.